Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning talking college quarterbacks for 2026. Feels a little ridiculous. It probably is. However, Chris Lowe has his way too early 2026 All American team out. So this kind of drove the conversation. The Rivals' final 5-star rankings are out for 2026 for the high school players. So this kind of driving some of that conversation. And just interesting to think about what we have coming back because the landscape's going to change every year now. Every year it's going to be a little bit different as far as what it's going to look like, what it's going to be, what we're going to get, things of that nature. So I think too, when you look at these quarterbacks, GMAC, you think about, all right, who maybe has a chance to extend past where we see them right now. And if you were to look at maybe some of those players, who would you look at right now and say, all right, I think that's a quarterback that could go a little bit further than what we think. That could go a little bit further than maybe where we're projecting him out.
Oof.
Let's just start in the SEC. If you had
Yeah.
an SEC quarterback that maybe could, go a little bit further than what we're thinking right now.
Lenore Sellers. I mean, he's kind of forgotten. I think if you look at where he was last year, they were just bad across the board last year. I think it was part of it was O-line, inconsistent wide receiver play. Lenoris never really took that step. All that stuff, all of that factored in. But he's got game. He's got ability. I mean, he's a guy that I think can always take over a game. That is always in there. So he's not a guy I really like at my heart of hearts trust to just take that leap from a processing standpoint, from a control standpoint, but he's still a guy I feel pretty good about.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't think anybody would look at that and tell you that, that they would have a problem with that or think that he couldn't sort of be that guy. I think most people believe that he could. I mean, I think with Lenore Sellers, you look at the ability, just the skill set, the size, the ability to elude. How concerned are you with his growth that is going to be another coordinator and another new coordinator? And even though it looks
Yeah.
like some of the pieces around him are going to be better, we still don't really know exactly what all of that around him is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions about that. Um, that's probably the biggest question. I mean, it's a lot of new, a lot of, and just really what you thought was going to progress from last year or from 24 to 25, we never saw it. You know what I mean? So is that a Lenore's thing? Is that a supporting cast thing? Like, what's the reason for that? Like, does he try to do too much? Does he rely a little too heavily on his legs? Yes. Does he have a full grasp and understanding of what it is they're doing from a protection standpoint and all that stuff based on tape? Probably not. But all that, you can't deny the ability. That's the thing. It's like the talent is there. Like, he has the talent, but now can he play the position the way it's required to be played to kind of be at the next level? Start playing NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to play college quarterback. College quarterback is very different than playing NFL quarterback. And I think if Lenoris could somehow take that step and start playing, quote, NFL quarterback at the college level, I mean, look out. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I think if that's going to have a lot to do with the guys around him. We know that Nick Harbour is not necessarily a polished wide receiver, so he's one that you probably look at and say, okay, we need you to come along a little bit. Need some other guys to be more consistent. What's tight end going to look like? Because it's been something he's relied upon with different players in the past. Is that going to be a position he can rely on this season coming up? We don't really know just yet. What is there going to be a complementary run game? There wasn't really last year. 2 years ago they ran the ball fairly well, and were able to generate some explosive plays there. Last year, not so much. I mean, the run game was essentially him. That's why Beamer talked about around the Vanderbilt game early in the season, we got to run the quarterback more because he knew the traditional run just wasn't going to be there, and you didn't want to beat him up, but you also knew we got to find different ways to move the football that's going to ease up the burden on what our quarterback's being asked to do. So it's I think he has a chance to grow into be. Let me just put it this way: do you see it at all possible Lenore Sellers, we close the season, and we're talking about him as the best quarterback in the SEC.
Is there a maybe the most talented quarterback in the SEC? But based on what I've seen up to this point, I don't know if I'd say he's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah, you don't think he gets to that spot? Okay.
I haven't seen any reason to believe that he can take that step. Like, what was the thing that Diego Pavia did a great job of from year 1 to year 2 at Vanderbilt?
Operate the offense.
He went from being like a oh my goodness, this guy's crazy, like he's all over the place, what a fun player to watch, to being a little more methodical, to being a little bit more in phase, staying in the system, doing all this other stuff. Like, there was a lot to like about the progress he made. You know what I mean? So that, I think, is what I want to see from Lenore's. And some guys do it, some guys don't. It's it kind of depends on the guy, the coaching staff, the processing speed, the adjustments, trying not to just beat everybody with athleticism, beating them with understanding, knowing where the vulnerabilities are in the specific defense they're running against. Like, all that stuff factors in.
Yeah. It all has a little bit of say in who's going to be the actual best quarterback. Because let's look at our best quarterback in college football last year. I mean, it's not all generated just by the Heisman Trophy, but would you say that Fernando Mendoza was the best quarterback in college football last year?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you think he ranked in attempts in all of college football?
Oh, gosh, like way down. He averaged 25 attempts a game.
But he also had, keep in mind, there's a lot of guys that had 12 games, 13 games. So he also had 16 games. So that changes it a little bit. You're right, but just not. He did have extra games, so that plays into it sometimes. Yeah. He was 38th, in all of college football. 379 attempts. So just for fun, Caden Veltkamp at FAU led the nation in attempts with 515. Sawyer Robertson had 504. Darian Mensah had 500. Ty Simpson had 473. Carson Beck, 467. Drew Mestamaker, 463. Trinidad Chambliss, 445. I mean, some of these players are a good 100 more attempts. Greg, that's 3-4 games of attempts. More than what we view the best quarterback in college football having had. So being the best quarterback doesn't always mean how many times you're allowed to or how many times you need to or choose to throw the football. And that's hard for some people to grasp and realize and understand. But at the same time, it's not necessarily in stone that it has to be that way for you to be the best quarterback in college football.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, to me, playing quarterback's different than playing football. Like, there are some guys that are amazing football players that play the quarterback position. That was kind of Diego Pavia 2 years ago. Like, a great football player and played quarterback, but was mostly a football player before he was a quarterback. That's what made him fun to watch. You know, that was what made him awesome.
That's what I said. I remember saying this about Dak Prescott, and Mississippi State fans lost their minds, got really mad.
Similar deal.
I said, going into his final year at State, I said, I think Dak might be the third or fourth best quarterback in the league, but I think he's the best football player in the league. And he changed that his last year. He went from being the best football player to arguably the best quarterback. He wasn't maybe one, but he was in the mix after that last year because he went from, like you're saying, being football player to actual quarterback. And that can change. That's like, does a John Mateer come to mind when you say that? And I know he doesn't do it as much, north-south running between the tackles, grinding out yards, things of that nature. But do you think of a John Mateer when you think about guys who need to go from football player to quarterback if they're going to raise the level of play for their team moving forward this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, but you hit the nail on the head with Dak. Like, Dak went from being a really good football player to a really good football player that is also excellent at being an in-phase quarterback that knows how to operate in a bunch of different ways. Look, being a great football player and developing into being a great quarterback, you can still, when things break down, turn back into that great football player that you that skill set that you relied so heavily upon as a young player when you were kind of just thrown out to the wolves and you relied on athleticism to get you out of a jam. But when you still have that, it doesn't go away. You don't lose it. But I think winning from the pocket first and then relying on the extra athletic resources that you have access to internally, that's what allows you to kind of elevate and take the next step. So now there's 100 different ways I can beat you. And Lenoris, I think if he did that, it'd be enormous. I think Sam Levitt has some of that. Like last year, I thought it was not a great throwing year for him, but there's a lot of good things on tape when it came to his mobility. Like he's a guy that I think is going to have a great year in Lane Kiffin's system. Really, really good year for him. Trying to think of like another guy that like Mateer to me is the ultimate example of he's great when a play breaks down. He's not great from the pocket. You know what I mean? When a play breaks down,
he needs to go from backyard ball to structured ball a little bit more.
Yes, but he's still, if all things go awry and the left guard and right guard both whiff, Mateer running around and making a play is a tremendous asset to have in his skill set. Correct. But he doesn't need that to be the best asset in his skill set. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, in that Oklahoma offense last year, the left guard and the right guard whiffing was actually more than reasonable. Very possible.
Regularity.
Yeah, happen often. So something that you want to clean up a little bit and try to get repaired. Brian Haydad's coming up in about 9 minutes. We're going to ask him about Mississippi State's class they're bringing in, but also a couple of other players, one to Alabama that's exiting Starkville and will end up playing for the Crimson Tide. We'll get his thoughts there, so keep it locked right here on Jocks. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services with the weather doing what it's doing. I know people are going to need to know about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services is always my go-to. The first thing that goes wrong in my house, doesn't really matter what it is, I'm always calling Polar Bear Services first. Wes and the guys that come out to my house, they've helped me out a ton. They've been very, very helpful when it comes to my HVAC. They've helped me with my plumbing as well. So make sure you have their phone number on speed dial because anything that could go wrong, they can usually get it taken care of. And if you're without power for whatever reason and you're starting to think about a whole home generator, they can install those as well from an electrical standpoint. So right now it's freezing. I'm sure there's several different times overnight which your HVAC system is just rolling and it's trying to keep your home warm. It's been put to the test. Make sure that if it's not running smoothly, you put a call in to Polar Bear Services to get it taken care of. It's so nice to know they can come out, take care of it, do a tune-up, do a repair, do a new installation, what have you. They can get you taken care of. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heater, air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, so we're talking quarterbacks that maybe could make a jump, maybe could show some improvement. Really starting out in the SEC, but then kind of moving nationally. Are there guys out there that we look at and say, like, how about the name that we were thrown a little bit earlier today by Charles Power? I mean, who has mentioned Tristan Tia at Auburn? Nobody. I mean, nobody has mentioned Tristan Tia to us and said, hey, I think this guy could be somebody to watch out for. He was 37 of 53 last year, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. And he's not saying start right now. He's not saying going to be the guy throw for 3,000 yards, but just down the road, and maybe if you needed a guy to get you to a jam this year, just somebody to kind of watch out for. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're looking at here, Greg, is not all guys just like that, but maybe some guys who are going to be in his spot 2 years from now that could potentially help out in different ways.
Yeah, and I mean, I think having a guy like that, like you said, like I don't know anything about this kid from Oregon State. Tristan T or whatever, like you said. I know nothing about him. But having a bridge guy, it's not that dissimilar to what we've discussed with Oregon. It's not that dissimilar to what we've discussed with Bama in a roundabout way, albeit not being at the portal. But this is the way LSU's doing it now. Like you go and get a developmental guy, and then you have a bridge guy that's your starter. And then in the case of emergency, you have a guy that does have talent that you can thrust in there, but you also have a year or two to kind of see whether or not, he can be the guy down the road, or you just do another bridge guy, whatever it might be. Like it's not a bad recipe for recruiting quarterbacks.
No, and even if you're not doing bridge guys, how how confident are you in your mainstay or your regular guy? Like, how many of these starting quarterbacks in college football have brains that operate like Ty Simpson's? I mean, honestly.
Not many.
Yeah, so how confident can you even be if you have a third-year starter, fourth-year starter, whatever it is? A guy coming back for his second year as your starter. It's hard to even have confidence and feel great about that. So, I mean, it puts you in that bind, in that spot where, regardless of their experience, their overall skill level, you better have somebody else somewhat capable. And remember this, like this is a cool thing to remember when we're having this conversation right here. Remember what I told you that Lane told us before the season when we had them week 1 and they hadn't played a game yet and we were asking him about backup quarterback? He's like, I don't know, guys. I mean, this kid we got from D3 is a baller, but first week of practice he couldn't complete an out route. Like couldn't perform the snap count. Like couldn't get the huddle organized. And we get out there in our first scrimmage and he's walking up and down the field on our first defense with the third offense. So we say, all right, let's give him some reps. And then I actually asked Charlie Weiss Jr. at the Sugar Bowl to confirm this. I said, second week of practice was rough. He goes, Cole, second week of practice was almost worse than the first.
Oh, no.
He was awful. He said, but he gets in with the twos in the scrimmage on the next Saturday, and he's walking the twos up and down on the one defense. He's like, all right, we got to figure this out. Because this kid might be able to help us. And they still didn't really know going into the season that he was fully going to be able to do what he did. They knew he was capable of it because they watched him do it against their first defense in scrimmages. Like, they saw Trinidad Chambliss ball against the number 1 defense, which they thought was going to be pretty good. But it's just in practice – in all of those, super organized, super controlled environments, he wasn't that great. But obviously when the lights came on, like, the kid's a gamer. We know that now to the nth degree.
Totally.
So, I mean, there's even guys like that hanging out there, Greg, and honestly, we may never see them, who have the ability to just turn it on in a game and all of a sudden be a difference maker.
Yeah, and I think that's always something that's hard to figure out. Like, great practice players, like Jimbo Fisher always told us this. He goes, Jameis was one of the worst practice players I ever had. But, man, you put him on the field, the dude just balled out. Like, it was hard. It was hard to wrap your head around. Like, what the heck? What's different about this guy that we had in – this guy that we had in practice and this guy that we'll have in the game? Like, the guy in the game is ridiculous. The guy in practice is like, oh my goodness, he's going to get us fired. So it's pretty amazing when you think about it.
All right. So I'm watching a little bit of Tia. Trying to see here. Tristan Tia. He's got a pretty live arm. Like, he can get it out pretty quick. He's good off platform. He's really nice on the move. Some of his shorter throws that ask for less velocity, a little wobbly on a few of those. Very, very determined in the pocket, like no fear in the pocket. He's not one of these guys that as soon as the pocket begins to be bent, like he's melting and has to get out of there and go somewhere. Like, he'll stand in there and throw it. He looks smaller than he's listed. Like, his stature just looks a little bit smaller, but he's got pretty good mobility. Like, I think exactly the way Charles Power described him, because I don't think Charles was trying to say, like, hey, this is your number 1 quarterback in the SEC in 3 years, but just a guy that could continue to develop a little bit, has a skill set that could help you. And in that offense, there are some similarities in the two offenses. So, yeah, that could end up being a low-key good get if he has to start 2 games towards the end of the year, or if he needs to be your backup and play a little bit the next year that not a single person has mentioned other than Charles Power. I'm going to give him credit for it because I have not even heard the name before today. And all of a sudden I'm watching this film and I'm like, yeah, got some spunk. Like, can spin it a little bit. Like, got a pretty good arm, got good touch. So he does not look 6'2", 205. I'll just say that. Like,
But Deuce Knight. But Deuce Knight.
He's at Ole Miss.
Correct. Yes.
Who do you think came less expensive? Tristan Tia or Deuce Knight?
I'm gonna say Tristan Tia, probably a couple less commas on there, a few less zeros.
Couple less
on that one. Yeah. What would you even ballpark you're giving a guy like that?
I have
100?
no Yeah, maybe 250. I have no idea.
Probably not even
Trinidad last year got 300. So that's all I know.
Yeah, so I'd say somewhere around there, which is
probably
disgusting for you and I to hear, by the way. But
yes,
it's
correct.
what today's college football is.
Hey, I'm not mad at them.
Just kind of is what it is. Okay, how does Mississippi State's class look? And there are a couple of departures from Starkville that are ending up on other SEC rosters, one at Alabama. We will ask Brian Haydad when we come back what to expect from those players and what he expects of Jeff Lebby's new defensive coordinator and how that will impact his entire team. This is something that I have a lot more concerns about than a lot of other people. We'll discuss all that more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, live on Jocks. Find us online, jocksfm.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Flu season is here. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a Trane. Brian Haydad joins us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. He covers Mississippi State. And Brian, I love Zach Arnett. I love Jeff Lebby. I'm not 100% certain how I feel about these two pairing up to manage an entire football team. The wear and tear, the toll that this could take on the bodies on this football team, I feel like could work to a detriment. How have you heard that part of this move addressed by Jeff Lebby or anybody else inside that facility?
You know, it's a good point because these are both guys that believe in physical play. They both work their guys really hard. I think that it's a good marriage in that I think Lebby needed a veteran, needed somebody he could lean on. You know, he went with Hutzler, who had no defensive coordinator experience whatsoever, and it really bit him. I mean, that's the reason Mississippi State struggled more than anything else over these past 2 seasons. So he had to go get a guy that he could trust to run that defense that had done it before in the SEC. And, you know, there's also the idea that if Lebby isn't successful this year, it could be, you know, tough to keep him for a 4th season. So getting a top defensive coordinator to come in that situation was always going to be tough. So Arnett fit the bill. He liked Starkville. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure, Cole, that when he was at Ole Miss for a year, he never moved. He stayed here in Starkville and just commuted to Oxford because he loved this community so much. So I think it'll work out okay. I think Mississippi State will be better defensively than they were a season ago or the past 2 seasons because of Arnett. He's just a better coach than Coleman Hutzler is. The questions I have about Mississippi State are more personnel related than anything else.
So what about the personnel? They lost some pieces in the portal. They lose a key piece at wide receiver. You lose the quarterback, but we know who the quarterback's going to be because the starter got some time down the stretch. Like, what do you think is reasonable with the expectations, knowing the departures and the new additions?
And when you look at the schedule, I mean, it's going to be tough. You know, Mississippi State is a program that hasn't, you know, a 4-4 season in the SEC has been really good for State over the past few years. And now you're playing 9 conference games. So you maybe 4-5 might be the absolute best case scenario. And that road trip to Minnesota, that's no cakewalk up there. That's a good team, a well-coached team. From a personnel standpoint, you know, it's a little disappointing that they went into the portal with 2 major needs and they didn't really fill either one of them. And that's left tackle, and they needed an edge rusher, a guy who could get after the quarterback. They got into the Jordan Seaton sweepstakes. They came up short in that. But they really didn't seem to pursue any of the edge rushers that were available, and not to the aggressive, not as aggressively as I thought that they really needed to. So those are some problems there. I like the way they reshaped their secondary. I think getting Kelly Jones back is as big as any portal addition. That guy is a potential first rounder next year. I just trust Lebby's evaluations on wide receivers, so I think Marquise Johnson will probably step right in where Brennan Thompson was and be that kind of player for them. But they definitely have some holes on this roster that they did not fill in the portal.
Where are you most confident with what's coming back or what's been added to this Mississippi State roster for next season?
It's probably the secondary. Kelly Jones is a great starting point for them. I like what they did at corner. The Quentin Taylor from Iowa State is a guy who's played a lot of Power 4 football and was good for a good defensive team up there. I like what they have back in the secondary as far as at the safety position. They also, in the high school ranks, got the one of the top safeties in the country, one of the top players in the state, Braylon Womack. Flipped him from Auburn late in the process, and I think he's a guy who could contribute as a freshman. I don't know if he'll be a starter, but Isaac Smith back there at safety as well. There's a lot to like in the defensive backfield. If State can generate any kind of pass rush this year, it could really be a solid defense. It's just about, these last 2 years, they've been one of the worst defenses in the country. It's just about getting to be average. If State just had an average defense last year, they probably would have won 8 games. So it's not about being the best defense in the conference by any stretch. It's just about being average at this point. If you can finish 7th, 8th, 9th in the conference, you give yourself a much better chance to have the kind of season Jeff Levy would like to have in year 3.
Let's definitely aim for average. That's all of our goal in life. But you're 100% right. Like, just subtle progress will give you such a great chance. And finish. How many times did Mississippi State have teams on the ropes this year and they just couldn't finish? That to me is probably the most frustrating thing. How have they made that a point of emphasis going into this season?
That's a good question. That's one that might be a wait and see kind of thing with Levy. Levy was the first-time head coach when State hired him 2 years ago, and there's been a lot of learning on the job. I feel like you would hope by year 3 all of those kinks are worked out. But you go back to the Texas game and the fact that State was still calling plays like they were down 17 instead of up 17 in the fourth quarter, getting the line so quickly, not trying to milk the clock. Those are some, he needs a little bit more nuance there. And I think one thing he's done is he brought in 2 veteran offensive coaches to his staff who I think are going to be the quarterback and the wide receivers coach. They haven't made the official announcements on that. But Kevin Johns is a guy who has a ton of experience. He's coached all over. Bush Hamdan has coached all over, coached in the SEC. I thought that was those were good moves, bringing in some veteran guys who can maybe give him a little bit more experience. But, it's on Levy. Levy is in his 3rd year as the head coach here at Mississippi State. He's got to be improving himself the way he's trying to improve his team. He's got to be better in those moments. And those are things we were not going to be able to tell you about until we watch them play this fall.
I love Bush Hamdan. He keeps bringing these guys in that have this like outside zone background with who he brought in last year, and then now bringing in Bush Hamdan. I don't know if that's like a part of what he wants to try to get better at or do more of. Would be interested to kind of watch that and see that. But I love guys bringing in guys with a little bit different backgrounds that can offer up different things in different ways. And like what you said, they've traditionally done it and traditionally can be. What is Alabama getting in Javen James, offensive tackle that's going to transfer over from Mississippi State?
I'm going to be real honest with you on this one. I'm not quite sure why he's playing at Alabama. I was never really impressed with that guy. When I saw that Alabama had signed him and Kendrick Bentley-Jones, I mean, that literally was a they did what kind of moment for me. I mean, James was a guy who I don't think State was going to pencil in to start this upcoming season. Maybe he can be a good depth piece. I will say that, he came to Mississippi State from Akron. He was at Maryland, but he transferred right out of there in the spring, never actually played for the Terps, and was kind of thrown into the fire through to some injuries. State's offensive line, the tackle position last year was just a revolving door with injuries. So, for a first-year guy, maybe he did okay. But that if Alabama is going to throw him out there at either tackle spot, I would not be overly confident in that.
I actually didn't mind him. It's interesting because I didn't mind him at all, considering some of the guys, like the Jimothy guy that was at Mississippi State that was being looked at. Like, I was unimpressed with him, but I didn't mind Javen James that much. I thought he was okay. Cole, what'd you think?
That's my point. Like, he was okay. He was okay at Mississippi State. That's good enough to start at Alabama. I mean, it really is a different day at your alma mater, Greg, if that's the case. Because that guy, I said he's just okay at Mississippi State. I mean, maybe he can get better, but I don't see him as I would never have in a million years before this in December told you, yeah, he'll end up at Alabama.
Wow. All right, now joined by legend on the Higginbotham Hotline. I'm sorry, Brian Haydad on the Higginbotham Hotline. I mean, goodness gracious, coming in like a real Bama fan here. I mean, listen, it's your opinion. I respect it. I thought he had good feet. I thought he's got really nice change of direction. I will say this. I don't think that offense is built for everybody. And not that I think Alabama's offense will be easier for him, but sometimes when you're able to line up and just tee off on guys, even if it's 35, 45% of the time, I think it helps make you a better player. Maybe that's something they feel like he can be a little bit better at, help them with. You said both that you weren't necessarily overly impressed. What about Kendrick Bentley-Jones? Is he somebody that you think can help Alabama? Is he somebody that you see being a good get for them on that defensive line?
I mean, I think he can provide some depth. He's a smart player, veteran. He's played
versatility,
a lot of
right? I mean, he lined up a lot of different places.
He can play inside and outside for sure.
Yeah.
He's a guy that when we talk to him, I think he's a future coach. He knows the game. But just, again, from a talent perspective, this is a guy who's in his, fifth or sixth year. I was really surprised he had more eligibility. But nowadays, Cole, you and Greg, you guys might still have some eligibility if you want to get back out there at this point. I think
we say it all the time, Brian. We have no idea how many years anybody has left. Like, unless they specifically come out and say, like, this is his last year. Like, we have no clue who has what years left.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I think he can be a depth piece for Alabama. Again, if on week one he's starting, that would be a concern for me because, again, I don't know that he would have started at Mississippi State this year.
Wow. Okay. There
Very
we go.
Interesting.
All right. So what's the expectation as of now? It's early. I get it. But there shouldn't be too much roster change before we actually get to kickoff. What's your expectation for this team this upcoming season?
I'm still concerned about the offensive line. They didn't really go out and improve it that much. They got some good young. It was really weird the way they attacked it, guys. They got 4 redshirt freshmen to come in. And, that bodes well for next year. Great, 2027. But what about 2026? I'm a little concerned there. Defensively, Arnett will scheme them up, and they'll be able to get after the passer, but they don't have a guy that I look at him and say, okay, offensive coordinators are going to have to deal with him first. I don't know how many difference makers they have on defense outside of Kelly Jones, Isaac Smith. The secondary, I think, is really good. But they also have a quarterback that I'm really high on. And if you have a top quarterback, that gets you a lot nowadays in college football. So, a full year of him as the starter, getting all of the reps, the talent is obvious. He's got the physical tools. This offense, you thrive with that kind of quarterback. They could surprise some people and be an 8-win team, or they could just be a 6-win team, or they could be a 5-win team. It just depends on that offensive line. If they can protect Tamario Taylor, I think the running game is going to be better with him and Fluff Bothwell. I think, I trust the wide receivers, but it's just going to be about how good they are on the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And if they can't protect him and they can't get after the quarterback, it might be a longer year for them.
Great point. Brian, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on with us. I knew a couple of those guys were moving
James
out.
Becomes an All-American, Cole, I'll come back on and tell you I was wrong.
Listen, here's the thing, Brian, is like, we talk about the NC State kid going to South Carolina. We talk the Colorado kid going to LSU. There's not a lot of other ones that Greg and I are going to sit here on this show and say, ooh, they got this offensive lineman, or, oh, man, they got this guy. Like, Greg and I are having to watch kids from Cal Poly and say, yeah, I think he might be able to fit in and help them a little bit. Like, that's where we are in college football, not just Alabama. I mean, you go watch the kid at South Florida that's going to probably start at center for Auburn this year. If you measured him up, nobody in the SEC would tell you he's going to play. But the kid gets his hands inside. He understands angles. He plays hard. He wins with leverage. Like, he's going to come in and be a pretty good player for them. But when we're watching, like what you just said, when I'm watching that with my SEC brain from 10 years ago, you're like, no way. But you know what? People said the same thing about Parker Brailsford. He's too light.
Yeah.
He's light in the shorts. He's going to get knocked around. And he was their best football player for the majority of the year. So,
yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, boys. Talk to you later.
Brian Haydad joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. It's different, Greg. I mean, this is what we talked about earlier with how you're getting quarterbacks and how you have to look at this a little bit differently because it's not just going to be stockpiling biggest, baddest, best, fastest, strongest over and over and over, and then you just roll the next one in.
100%. Like, first of all, no one's that good along the offensive line anymore. So let's just end with that. What have we been saying for 5 years in doing this show? Don't let your offensive line get you beat.
Get you killed.
I don't necessarily need the upside. Just give me the guys that know what they're doing. If they can mow them off the ball 5, 6, 7 yards at a time, awesome. That's great. And maybe with the high school recruiting, you can get those guys and develop those guys over the course of time. You have probably 2 years with an offensive lineman. The offensive lineman is more inclined to stick around than your, a lot of other positions. So I think you're okay by kind of cultivating that and then piecemealing it together with some guys that can create a little higher floor. Last year, the floor was too low, way too low. And it made it very difficult to be consistent up front. So I think don't let your offensive line be a liability and you'll be in good shape.
Absolutely. All right, we have a graphic from a college football player that I need everybody's opinions on. Love it or hate it, need it or don't want it. We'll discuss that more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you being with us. JocksFM.com app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download it for free. If you missed Charles Power, if you missed Brian Haydad, you can go back and listen to those podcasts there. We're also live on YouTube. Search Jocks945, and you can always check out the show, watch us live there. Also, before we continue to move on here, we're going to have bad box score of the day coming up on the other side. We bring that to you at the end of each and every show. But I got to tell you about my friends at Royal Buick GMC. If you're looking for a great deal on a pre-owned car, truck, or SUV, visit Royal Automotive to choose from a massive selection that includes almost every make and model. At Royal, every vehicle has gone through a rigorous inspection. Royal's no-haggle pricing makes the car buying experience very easy. The on-the-spot financing available, even if your credit score gives you a challenge, is going to be something you want to take advantage of. Find the car or truck you need for the price you want with vehicles starting under $12,000. If you need to sell your ride, Royal is going to buy it. My friends at Royal Automotive make it quick, easy, and convenient to sell your car right away. No appointment needed. Royal, going to go to you no matter where you are buying or selling. Skip Marketplace, avoid shady meetups, or getting ghosted. Royal Automotive, located exit 252, where I-65 meets Highway 31 in Vestavia. You can always shop online, royalautomotive.net. Take advantage of Royal's driveway delivery. And remember, for every ride, there's Royal. So we talked a lot of college quarterbacks today. We talked a lot of maybe who's going to be next, guys that we like that are up and coming just a little bit. We'll continue the conversation maybe around that way too early All-American team tomorrow. Look at a couple other positions that if we're forecasting who maybe shows up out of nowhere, who we like, who we don't like, and maybe some guys that aren't being talked about enough. Because I'll tell you this, Greg, like, you know how this is. All these guys that put these teams together, I usually get texts or phone calls of like, who do you like here? Who would you put here? O-line, not easy for next year.
No.
Like, not easy. It's not like, oh, left tackle, boom, 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 these guys. Oh, center, these four guys. Like, yeah, you're sitting there going, all right, hold on a second. I like this guy, but that guy. Where's that guy going again? Oh, let me think about this dude. Like, not easy to sit there and put some of these positions together.
No, I could not do it, honestly. Like, I would have a very hard time with the offensive line. It's so year to year. I mean, how many times have we seen a guy look great earlier in his career, and then all of a sudden you think, all right, here he goes, and he's not the same guy. Like, isn't that wild?
Earlier in the year and then late in the year, not even like year to year.
Ohio State this year, perfect example. Like, how is that possible?
I don't know.
I need to know. I really need to know, and it's really I think it's very hard to know with offensive line what's going to work, what's not going to work, what have you. I think it's a very, very, very difficult proposition to figure out. Right, probably the hardest. Probably more the quarterback's very difficult, but I think offensive line's probably the hardest.
I'm with you. All right, we'll get to a break. Come back. Bad box score of the day next, right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Wrapping it up right here on Jocks. We'll get to our bad box scores, plural, here in just a moment. You can always be a part of the show, 800-239-9569. Text into the show, 205-834-9450. Watch us live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. Winter is here. We got more weather coming in this weekend. We were just reading it during the break. Span says snow for the northern part of the state again this weekend. Below freezing again, so you need to know about Noble Eagle Insulation. Extreme cold winter conditions are going to create urgency around your home. This Birmingham-based veteran-owned insulation company wants to help your home just be more comfortable. If your home is feeling cold, drafty, or even you have uneven temperatures in different rooms, different parts of your rooms, if you have high heating bills due to poor insulation, you got fast response times. These crews can get to you quickly. Like we said, those cold conditions can cause urgency, protects comfort, lowers your energy costs, and improves efficiency with Noble Eagle Insulation. They got the spray and insulation that they can come and knock out even just a small portion of your home. We had one part of our kitchen a couple of years ago that was a little bit drafty, and we were worried about the pipes freezing because that part was near where the sink was. Brought the guys out. Mike Mikos and the guys came out. They sprayed just right there. Didn't have to do the whole home. They just sprayed right there to make sure that was going to be secure when the temperatures got below zero again. Call 205-490-2933. That's 205-490-2933, or visit nobleinsulation.com. That's nobleinsulation.com. Comfort you can feel, savings you can see at Noble Eagle Insulation. Go check them out today. With these temperatures coming in, you're going to want to have a little extra insulation in different parts of your home. Noble Eagle Insulation can help you there. Let's get to our bad box scores of the day. We go to the NJCAA Men's Division III. The Bronx Community College.
They're the Broncos.
They are. Too
Yankees.
easy. It was so easy. It was
Right
so
there.
easy.
Softball.
They took on we've had them plenty of times. Now, this is a complete reversal, but the Monroe University.
Generals.
No.
Guardians.
They're the Express. And they have been in this section of the show often, but on the other side. I think that was actually the women's. This is the men, different story. The Express rolled past the Broncos 98-42.
Okay.
Your score was 44-17 at the half.
All right.
The Broncos shot the ball 61 times in the game.
And they made
17.
Okay.
Now they did put up 14 threes. Did put up 14 threes.
And I'm going to guess they made one.
2.
They made 2. Greg is right.
Wow.
Yes.
Now they did go the free throw line 14 times.
And they made, I'm going to say they went 7 for 14. 50%.
No. They didn't get to 50%. They shot 6 of 14.
Huh.
Just under.
They were out-rebounded 55-30 in the game.
That's bad.
Monroe shot 40 of 75, 9 of 23 from 3 for a pretty impressive win. 6 players in double figures for a 98-42 victory. Here's the part that you need to know, more importantly, of the actual box score of this game. The Bronx Broncos moved to 0-17 in Region 15 play and 0-21 on the season.
I had a feeling it was going to be tough for them this year.
0-21.
Yep. Also, quickly, the Minnesota State Community and Technical College Spartans went down to the North Dakota State College of Science Bobcats 95-29 over the weekend.
All right.
Your score at the end of one period, 29-2. 40-12 at the half. 40-12 at the half. Minnesota State shot 10 of 35, 4 of 14 from 3, 5 of 15 from the free throw line. They turned it over just 39 times.
Just.
Only 39 times.
That's it. Not bad.
North Dakota State College of Science shot 38 of 85 for the game.
Yeah.
Those are your bad box scores of the day. We're back tomorrow. 3-man front is next.